Okay, United States versus Rahimi. I may have pronounced that wrong, but Rahimi. This is the case about the domestic violence and the restraining order that has went up to the Supreme Court about the 922 G8, I think. But so the brief has been filed by Mr. Rahani's lawyers, and I'm just going to tell you, it looks like they did a heck of a job. I've been listening to some other reviews of it. People, lawyers, attorneys who know more than me. Looks like everybody, well, not everybody, but from the small sampling that I've taken, looks like his lawyers are on point here. I have not had time to read the whole brief. I've read a little bit, want to go over a few highlights with you guys, but in general, it looks like a great brief. Looks like some very strong arguments, and arguments, some of the government's arguments do not seem to be very credible, seem to be very weak. But strictly here, we just want to talk about the brief that's been filed by Mr. Rahani's lawyers and his team. One of the highlights was so under Bruin, you're supposed to look back at like the time of the historic events, and they were doing this, and they were citing. They made one of the best points. One of the best points in the brief, in my opinion, is where they go to talk about. So back in the day before it was found, before it was possession of a firearm by certain groups or people were found to be unconstitutional, such as felons or under this which we got a restraining order. Before that, you have to understand, in history, we had hundreds, if not thousands, of cases of men, doing the domestic violence towards their wife. This is not something new. These cases have been happening. And what's key here, when you look back, you don't see anyone try to take the man's or the husband's gun away or say that he can no longer have a gun. His constitutional Second Amendment constitutional right was gone because he had I keep forgetting this, a restraining order against him. That didn't happen. And what's key here is that's what Bruin says you have to look at the historic of it, not what they came out in the 1960s or whatever year it was and said, oh, now all of a sudden it's unconstitutional for a felon to have a gun, for a person who got a restraining order to have a gun. Just that wasn't any of that before a certain year. So they look back at the historic of it and they say hundreds, if not thousands, of people were going through this as far as domestic violence with women, and nobody thought, no laws, nobody thought that the husband should be banned from able to have a firearm for the rest of his life. I thought that was key. I think that's a great argument, and they made that argument, and I think that's key. If you guys tell me what you think about that argument down in the comment section. If you think that's a great argument, or if you didn't think of it, either way, let me know in the comment section what you think. And then also, and I didn't get to read all of this, but they went into stating how that is actually really confusing and unfair, because when you see, even with police officers, and I didn't read all of this, so if someone's read the whole brief, please let me know and correct me. But they started talking about, before I had to stop, how if a police officer gets a restraining order put against him, he is still able to carry his gun for his job, for being a law enforcement officer. They don't take his gun. So they make that argument in there, which I thought was also super strong. I didn't get to read that whole argument, so if I'm missing something, attorneys or paralegals or anybody who's read that entire brief, please let me know. But they cited that, and I thought that was also a great argument. They've several other great arguments in there. I just wanted to touch on a few of those. Overall, though, I'm very impressed with the brief. Of course, the government now will have to file their brief in response to that, so we'll see how that goes. But this brief here, filed on behalf of Mr. Rahimi, I think is, again, I think it's great. I think they did a really good job here. So I think we got oral arguments coming out within the next 30 days, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll follow that. But we got a real good case here. I think we got a real good law team on this. And I don't know if this is going to get 922G, that whole statute thrown out. I don't know where they're going to rule on this, but I think it looks favorable for Mr. Rahimi of winning this case, and we'll see how far the Supreme Court goes as far as their ruling, if they rule in his favor. Again, you guys comment, let me know what you think. If he is successful, Mr. Rahimi, how far do you think the Supreme Court will go? Do you think they're going to really limit the scope of their response to just Mr. Rahimi and say, okay, he's innocent and not go any further than that? Or do you think they're going to come out with a broad scope and say the whole statute 922G is unconstitutional? Tell me what you think in the comments section, and tell me what state you're from if you would. I really appreciate everybody who has been watching these videos. Really been happy. We've got lots and lots of views on this material and this content, and I really, really appreciate everybody. And if you could do me one more favor, hit that thumbs up, that like button for me, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know when I drop my next video. And I appreciate you, and I'll respond to your comments.